I drank a lot of caffeine, and I just finished her matcha. I've consumed a bunch of really weird shit.
That's why I alleviated my bladder before we started.
And we're rolling.
It's on?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to talk?
No, I do the intro, bro.
All
right, what's up, guys? Today, we have a special guest again. His name is Austin Ragno. Hello, Austin.
Am I permitted?
Oh, come on, dude. You don't need to be like
Am
that.
I granted permission to speak?
Yeah.
You told me to let you do the intro, so I was letting you have your moment.
Talk over me, man.
All right, I'm ready now.
How are you?
I'm all right. Today was a good day so far, and then you asked me 40 minutes ago if I want to record a podcast. Now here we are.
And they always make your day better when we record podcasts.
Yeah, they're usually a fun way to kind of just sit down and chat, and the eye contact this time, I don't know if I like it. Last time we didn't have eye contact, and this time we do, and it's stressing me out.
You moved your chair
because I thought it was weird not having.
But now looking into each other's, we don't look into each other's eyes this long.
No.
Ever.
Oh god.
So
so now what?
I don't know. We need something to look at. All right. So I have a topic today. I have like a list of like 30 to 40 topics that I want to talk about, and most of them don't work for you.
Okay, understandable.
But I have one that works that I think that we could talk about. Now,
video games.
I don't know anything about video games. So I think this one's a good one because I have a completely different perspective than you.
Okay.
All right? So I have a perspective from like an outsider and then what I have going on.
But you're stressing me out.
Why are you stressed out?
Because I don't know what it is yet.
All right. So it's a question. I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, God.
And then we can circle back to me and I can answer too. But like,
okay.
It's a question that, once again, we get a lot. You see a lot, I see a lot, and I know it frustrates the hell out of you. But, like, when should you get a quote-unquote fitness coach or trainer? Or trainer. A coach is different than a trainer, right?
Okay. I like that.
And since you are a fucking bodybuilder, bro.
Oh, God.
But you're a bodybuilder.
Yeah. I guess I have to accept what I am.
There's no running from it. You are a gorgeous, shredded bodybuilder.
I'm getting there, yeah.
111 pounds.
I like this topic.
Yeah, no, this is a good topic. You were scared.
Yeah, I didn't know where you were going to come with it.
Well, I came with it.
Okay.
Straight
I enjoy
out like
it.
that.
I'm ready for it.
All right. So, I don't know. I hear that a lot. A lot of people are like, well, when can I start? I need a coach. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. So, like, from my perspective, I saw the Dana come up, right?
Yeah.
Which is where, like, when we started out, we had a friend. I did some design work for him, and he sort of, like, helped her. Looking back now, he didn't help her at all. Like, he didn't even try.
Right.
And whatever. And that's why, like, showing up to the first show that we've ever seen, she was in the show, competing as a bodybuilder, I guess. The second show, we sort of just, like, took the minimal knowledge we had from the first guy, and we just sort of did it ourselves. And then we just sort of continued, and we would ask friends for advice. Like, asked Seth Feroci for advice, and he, like, sat down with Dana for 2 hours and talked to her, and, like, it sort of helped. Let me think who else was involved with her prep. So she competed for, like, whatever it was, 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And no coach, anything like that. And then when she was going to go pro, Jose Raymond became a dear friend. He stepped in and sort of helped her a little bit. Once again, not like a traditional coach, but like...
just helping out.
Yeah, we would send photos and be like, hey, man, she's looking sort of like this. Should she eat something? And he was like, have you eaten a sweet potato? And she'd be like, all right, I'll try sweet. So it was like, looking back now, it wasn't like a real coach, but he was almost like an outside perspective, bodybuilding mentor. Like, I was like, hey, man, she got offered this as a supplement contract. Like, is this a good number for a girl?
He was a good dude that you trusted, not biased, so there was no extra ties to it.
I think one of the big problems was when Dana first started out, and I know people get frustrated when you touch on the natural thing, but when we first started out, around the same time as Seth was giving advice.
You want to date this with a year? Just so...
that's hard for me to do because my brain is small. Okay, no, so that was
2013.
That was around
Olympia,
the time Flag Nor Fail was not really started yet. So so it would have been.
You're talking over 10 years ago.
I would have 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 11 years ago. So
Just so people understand
so
how
this
much
was
goes
this was
in.
my big issues with coaches, right? Especially for females. And this is one of the reasons that Dana, even though she gets so much heat, is still sort of vocal about being natural. And I think we see this too. I don't want to throw too many people under the bus on the East Coast, but like there's a very specific look when you're relying all on drugs, right? When you rely all on drugs, you end up looking like shit. And I think also too is there's a delusional part in the fitness world that girls sort of fall into where they think they still look good, and they don't, and no one realizes or no one tells them how much the drugs is making them look like shit. So my big issue is when Dana was sort of making her name for herself and she was on YouTube and she was like on the come up, we could diet her and it was like sort of easy because she's just a genetic freak. She trains really hard and she has no issue dieting.
Right.
That girl can eat literally the same exact thing every single meal for 10 meals a day and she'll just do it. She's a monster, sort of like you are. You know what I mean? It's just that like, well, no, I'm dieting, so why would I need a cheat meal?
Yeah.
Like she's one of those people. So one of my big issues was when we started shopping around for a coach, and the top coaches, like the top of the top, when we were shopping around for a coach and be like, hey, well, maybe, Seth, help us put in touch with some people and blah, blah, blah. The big thing was her legs. Like we couldn't get the water out of her big, fluffy soccer legs. And everyone just sort of said the same thing. They were like, well, you need hardcore diuretics. Anavar would help out, this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other. And Dana was always just like, well, I don't want to do drugs.
Right.
Like I want to be natural. I think I can do this natural. And without even like really consulting, that's what the initial feedback we got from the coaches was just like, oh, we'll answer it with drugs. And it's like, well, of course drugs are going to work. But like, are you a real coach if you can't like actually examine my diet, figure out what works with me? So that's another reason we stayed away from coaches forever. The one coach that we finally ended up going with was George Farah, and that's because we met him in Alaska, of all fucking places.
Which is like the
and
weirdest.
We were training, and he was like, it was after Dana, I think, placed really poorly at the New York Pro, and she was talking about like she was going to, I think, stop competing after the New York Pro, after she got a pro card. And George finally stepped up when we were there, and he was like, I want to coach her, brother. I want to make her, she's a star. She's a fucking star. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, gurus, coaches, everyone wants to put her on drugs. And he was like, no, brother. I can tell she's natural. And I was like, are you fucking with me? Like, you're actually, like, saying that you're not going to, like,
slide in
you're not going to do something
shit.
Weird. And I actually said that to him. And I was like, listen, man, like, so I talked to her and she was down. And I was like, listen, man, if you take her all the way to prep natural and at the last minute you're like, fuck, and you try to do something weird, I'm going to put you on blast and we're not going to do it. Like 100%. He's like, oh no, would never do that. And he actually stuck to his word. And that was why, like, I respect the fuck out of George, dude. And I don't think a lot of other coaches would have ever done that. And I don't even care if no one believes. But going back to the reason Dana's so vocal is because that's what happens to girls. Like, we've seen so many girls that are like gorgeous, and like coaches get them in quote unquote shape, and the next thing you know, they're either like rebounding super hard, and then they're going to look for people to coach them on reverse dieting or fucking whatever novelty program they put together to save girls, or they just keep getting weirder and weirder, and then they can't make appearances in public because their skin's so bad, their hair starts getting super weird and brittle, and like all that falls apart, and you're like, oh, cool, you're no longer marketable. Like, and in this industry, that's how you make money, by being marketable. There's no money elsewhere. Like, it's not like you win and get money for ruining your shit. Anyway, that's my side, and I think
that's one of your sides.
That's one of my sides. The other beautiful thing for Dana was watching her. She became so in tune with her body because she was doing it herself.
Exactly.
And like, so she had to figure a lot of things out. Like, she was like, okay, cool, I responded to this much rice.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that I regret not doing was she didn't really experiment with anything else. She found things that she thought worked for her, because when we originally went with George, dude, she was eating like 4 cups of rice a day. All of a sudden, she was trying to keep her carbs low, and it was white rice. I remember the first day she came back, she's like, I feel fucking horrible. Like, she came to the gym, she didn't want to train. Day 2, she felt even worse. She was like, this dude's the worst coach in the world.
Just over it.
Like, day 2, she was like, fuck him. Like, he's ruining me. I don't want to do this. What if I stayed with him, but I lied to him and I did something else?
Yeah.
And then day 3, she walked in the gym because she was teaching and I'd meet her at the gym. She walked in the gym day 3, dude, and just vascular, dry, freaky looking. And she was like, something happened. And it was like, oh, cool. Maybe we should just wait 3 days on a fucking diet.
Guy.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing about her is she took so much time to learn specifically what worked for her body. And the beauty was George did the same thing.
Right.
He wasn't like a coach. It just made her eat stuff. I forget what she had to stay away from. Like, I think potatoes bloated her really bad. There's a couple carb sources that bloat, like oatmeal. She can't do oatmeal. So she did cream of rice.
Yep.
But there was a couple things like that, and it was really taking the time to learn her body, being responsible, not rushing things. They made prep longer, and it was this wonderful experience. But from everyone else I hear, it's normally like 2 shows, the coach ruined me, and I'm fucking out.
Yeah, now I need a new coach to rebound or do
or
this
to do
and
something.
recover.
And it's just this juggle thing that they do, and nobody actually ever stays with anybody for a long time, and everyone looks horrible.
Right.
Right?
Fitness.
That's
Yeah.
fitness. I think that like it's also the thing now is people like just liking to name drop coaches, and it makes you feel like a real competitor when I'm coached by blah blah blah. It's like, oh, no one cares. Now you're an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because so for people that don't know, Austin got second place at Team U. No,
2014.
2014, which
I don't think it's called Team U anymore, is it?
What I don't know.
It's called like I think they call it the NPC universe now.
But now they give pro cards the top 2.
Is that what it is?
I think they give out 1 million
so
pro
out
cards a
of
year.
it,
But
yeah.
what it comes down to is and I'm saying this not sucking his dick, but if Austin would have stayed with bodybuilding for like 2 or 3 more shows as a bantamweight, 100% would have got his pro card as a bodybuilder. No, there's no question. You would have got it. And it's because you are one of those people that's like, oh, it's time to diet? Cool, I'll diet for 6 months and I'm not going to fuck around.
Yeah, I have, and we could talk about it in a second, but I have a pretty good ability to just flip the switch. I could,
anything.
Yeah, I could be like, hey, I'm dieting to go home for Philly for my birthday in May, and then I just won't eat any junk food, and I'll track and all that stuff. So I think I have a pretty good gauge on that, and kind of similar to how Dana did, it was because I figured it all out myself. And I think one of the most important things that we'll say competitors are lacking nowadays, or people getting into the gym, is like, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So like and I think similar to you and similar to like a lot of people that I think are successful in the sport, it's like, oh, when did you start training? Oh, when I was 13 years old or whatever age, or, oh, my dad used to lift weights, so that's why I started lifting weights. So like you get into it for the right reasons, you do it for the right reasons. Shit shouldn't be hard.
So also everything you just said, which was like, when did you start? Why are you doing it? All those things, it also goes to like the trendy entrepreneurship thing too. Like, why are you doing your craft? Are you doing video because you want to be famous?
Right.
Or are you doing video because you love video? Are you taking photos because you love taking photos?
Right.
Or you want to be known as this amazing photographer? Are you starting a business because you want to like drive a Ferrari, or are you starting a business because like you want to help someone, or you actually love the product you're making? Like, it's the same thing with bodybuilding and fitness.
So my kind of I'll touch on my fitness like journey or whatever real quick, just so it has like some background and substance. When I turned 16, I joined the gym with my older brother. Before then, I was always lifting weights because that's what my dad did. At night, from 7 o'clock to 7:30, he sat on the couch. He still does it.
Can you tell us his regimen? Because it's so good.
I absolutely can. With his 20-pound dumbbell, and I keep telling him that he has to do something different. But at the end of the day, do what you like doing. If you can do it consistent, whatever. But every day he sits on the couch, and like I remember back in the day, it was Seinfeld. Seinfeld come on at 7. He would have his 20-pound dumbbell. He would do a set of bicep curls and then a set of overhead tricep extension. Now this is seated with one dumbbell
on a couch.
On a couch as a repeated circuit. So right hand curl, right hand extension, left hand extension. Then he would do a hammer curl.
Ooh.
Then he would go shoulder press,
Whoa.
each arm. and then he would do a supinated curl. And then he would end with, what would he do? Oh, upright rows, which is super awkward seated, one hand upright rows, 20-pound dumbbell.
He's almost doing like a snatch
like a seated snatch. But he would do it for 30 minutes straight, count 10 reps each arm, not count sets, not count whenever, he would just go. So like,
I love it.
Eventually I had a black 5-pound rubber dumbbell that I sat on the couch next to him, and I would do it.
Whoa.
So turned 16, joined the gym with my older brother, which is, we start going to the gym together. Later, like if I ever talk about like the gym I worked at, that's the gym.
Okay.
And it ended up all coming around. So, I mean, that was whatever, year 2000 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we're training in the gym. We're reading Muscle and Fitness. We're taking Nitro Tech. We're doing like all that stupid gym bro shit. But the big thing was, like, I was one of the only kids on I played ice hockey in high school and college. I was the only kids on the high school ice hockey team that lifted.
Yeah.
So like after practice, sometimes my dad would take a couple of us in the gym. We would lift, whatever. So I always lifted because it allowed me to perform better in sports. And I thought it was fun. So like when I went to play collegiate ice hockey and we played every team on the East Coast, and I'm 5'7", 150 pounds, like I needed something. So I need to be stronger or whatever, quicker. So college, lifted all throughout college, always trained, whatever, never ate right.
Yeah.
Then entered Austin post-college, which is where I wasn't playing ice hockey 3 times a week. I wasn't playing lacrosse 3 times a week. And I was just this dude who didn't do active stuff. And my metabolism was like, hey, bro, you're not doing anything active, so we're going to put on a little bit of weight. So I was never like fat, but I was always like a little thicker.
You're heavy set, Austin.
Yeah. So what got me into fitness, and I don't even know if you know this.
I don't. I'm on the edge of my seat.
So 2012, January 1 comes around.
All right.
And what comes around with January 1 and supplement companies? Exactly.
Sale.
Which leads to
sales.
Body transformation.
Wait, bodybuilding.com?
So bodybuilding.com, 2012,
Good old days.
100K transformation challenge.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I'm going to win it. Hands down. Knew I was going to win it.
Okay.
I knew I was going to win it because they were looking for a transformation. Yeah. I needed a good reason to diet for the first time.
Yeah, because you're a mess right now.
For the first time in my life ever, I just needed like a little bit of like, oh, that's my goal. And I was...
Wait, did you win it? I don't remember.
No. So the big thing was the forum. So you had to put out a story, but they go about selling the journey as well.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I know how to video edit. I know how to do recipe videos. I'm already putting out content. I already have a YouTube channel. I already have an Instagram following that's like back at that time was like pretty decent. I was like, I'm going to win this thing. So where'd I get my diet plan from?
Bodybuilding.com.
No, Muscle and Fitness magazine.
Ooh.
One of like the tear outs.
Okay.
But what was weird about it was because it was the first time I ever dieted, I saw results like instantly.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, I like sort of have abs now.
Yeah.
I like sort of can see a vein in my bicep. Like all that shit when you first start and that you get like really hype about. Then what happens? I broke my foot in 4 places.
I thought you were going to say growth hormone.
No, not yet. That comes a little bit later in the story. So I broke my foot in 4 places.
No, wait. People are going to think you're actually.
Yeah, I'm actually. No, sorry, I don't do growth hormone. I like winked and then you didn't see
they
the
can't
wink
see you wink.
I know. So I broke my foot, and then why breaking my foot was important was because I had just dieted for 6 weeks for the first time ever, and I was starting to see transformation or however you want to look at it, and it made me realize like, whoa. All I had to do with like the training I've been doing for the last 10 years was eat a little bit differently, and like my body's changing. Like I was like addicted to it. You know, like when you first start to do something, I have a super compulsive, obsessive,
like
meth, wink, and like all them other weird heavy drugs. So what that did for me was I was like, I didn't want to get beaten down by it because like I said, I was starting to get in shape. I'd start this transformation challenge. I was posting about it on Instagram, all this and that. So I used that as like not an opportunity to just let myself go to shit, but an opportunity to like focus on something.
Yeah.
So that's when I couldn't sleep, so I had to move back in with my parents. I broke 4 of 5 of my metatarsals in your foot, which is the big long bones that connect your toes to your foot.
So the question is, when should you get a bodybuilding coach?
No. So I'm bringing it.
Okay,
all right, so here's where it comes
all
full circle. So I took that time to learn.
You're talking about what bones you broke in your foot.
I'm giving background substance to this story.
All right, yeah.
So that's where I realized, like, all right, I want to learn more about nutrition. I find this very fascinating. I'm super into it. And I used them couple months where I was just stuck on a couch to read and learn everything I could. I was like a sponge for information from magazines, bodybuilding.com, whatever. So full circle, next year, 2013, Transformation Challenge came around, and it lined it up with NGA show, which is National Gym Association, whatever it stands for.
National Geographic, yeah.
National Geographic bodybuilding show in Philadelphia. I was like, all right, I could do the Transformation Challenge. At the end of the Transformation Challenge, there's a bodybuilding show. I'll do my first bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
And then I coached myself through that entire thing. Again, bodybuilding.com, reading everything I could. I don't know if we like plug people on this podcast, but like, if you go on there, whose articles.
Well,
are, like,
I also
legit.
think that. So you grew up in a different time.
I grew.
Because it's changed. Well, so
yeah.
So as I'm hearing you say this, like, because I want to be like, oh yeah, go do all your own research,
right?
And you like back then,
now there's a
bodybuilding.com.
lot of shit.
But now the problem is there's those dudes out there that are like, all the pros are doing this much gear, everyone's doing this much gear, and like there's more people trying to. The fitness industry's become about making money now.
Right.
So like back then, I think people were legit just putting out good information that they knew worked. Now it's like, it's not like, hey, try intermittent fasting. It's like, hey, try my version of intermittent fasting and buy my program, and then I can make money. But they need to differentiate it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and back in 2013, getting ready for a bodybuilding show, all that was out there was Lane Norton's guide to bodybuilding prep on bodybuilding.com.
Yeah, and Jim Stephani and
So that was my Bible. So I followed my macros, did all that stuff, learned how to track food, and prepped myself for my first show in 2013.
Ooh.
And I think the biggest thing that like I'm kind of so competing wise, I competed at that show. I met someone at that show who was like, hey, I'm a coach, I can help you, blah blah blah. At the time I thought it was like something there, I wasn't working. I was like, yeah, sure. They prepped me for my second show. So I went, first show was counting my macros, doing all my own thing, learning what foods I liked, how I responded to like hunger signals, and all that shit. Second show was like the most strict bro diet ever.
Horrible.
But I could flip the switch.
Oh yeah,
So
I forgot about that.
It was easy for me, but looking back on it, I wouldn't say I had a better look that show than any of the other 6 times I competed. So the following season, we'll call it, because that's what competitors call it, the bodybuilding season. That's when I prepped myself I did the NPC Philly show, and then I did the Team Universe, which was like my big show, because I was going to local shows and there was no other bantamweight bodybuilders, because if you're not familiar, bantamweight is 143 pounds.
Which no one weighs that much.
No one weighs that much. It's crazy.
How much do you think my bones weigh? Like if you cut my bones out, like if you were Dexter,
your bones probably weigh like 180, 190, maybe, right?
It feels like heavy.
I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers out there.
My bone weight.
How would I know that?
I bet you my bones are like 140 pounds.
No, like your skeletal tissue?
Yeah. Like
no.
my skeleton
That
bones.
means you're like 75 pounds, 75% body fat right now.
No, because then you have muscles, and then you have organs and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh,
hair.
you say just bone? Okay.
Just my bones.
I have no idea. Either way, Rob's bones would be on stage against me at the NPC. So there was no other bantamweight competitors. So that's why I was like, hey, I want to do a national level show. The Team Universe is the national level show that's like right in that area. It made sense. I qualified for it.
So what you're saying is for that show, you didn't need a coach.
No.
You think?
So I only had a coach one time.
Yeah.
Out of the 6 shows that I had done.
Yeah.
Every other time I realized what worked for me, which was I understand my body pretty well because I took the time to get all the information right. So why did I hire a coach this time?
No. So I think once again, we're all familiar with like resistance, and people try to find reasons not to do things, right? They try to say like, oh, I would do that, but I don't have this. And I would start a business, but I don't have the $75 it takes to start an LLC. Or I would run every day, but I don't have running shoes.
Okay.
Or you know what I mean? Like just all those fucking excuses.
Yeah.
I would wake up on time, but I can't seem to go to bed before midnight. Just like,
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people were like, oh, I would get in shape, but I can't afford a coach.
Right.
Right? So, yeah, what I'm saying is, when do you think a coach should really enter your equation?
Should I just use...
Because you can use yourself as an example.
I'll use myself as an example this time. So I'm working with Paul Ravella of Pro Physique's, ProPhysique.com, Team Pro Physique, whatever. I'm working with him because I dieted for Olympia last year. I won it.
For no reason.
For no reason.
You're making it sound like you competed in Olympia. You're like, so last year when I dieted for Olympia,
Okay,
it's like,
so-
okay, no. He dieted because, can we just tell people, anytime Austin knows there's going to be a pool,
Yeah, I diet.
he diets. No. He diets for 5 months. So like, what is it now? It's like February. If in August he knows that we're going to go somewhere for a photo shoot where there's going to be a pool, he'll just start dieting now.
Yeah.
And then he shows up at the pool, and you're like, bro, why do you look like that? And he's like, I just wanted to look good at the pool. And then that night he eats bad, and the next day he puts 75 pounds on.
Yeah. So I
So he dieted for Olympia.
I dieted to go to Olympia as
for the
a
Airbnb pool.
as a vendor in September. And while I was there, I was like, hey, I got pretty lean.
Yeah, we took some photos.
Yeah, I got pretty lean. We took some photos. And the big thing for me was I didn't dig during that diet. My carbs never dropped under 225. My cardio was never over 40 minutes.
And your workload was crazy.
And I was like doing so it made me think like, and I've always like danced the idea around my head. Like, I wonder what I would look like if I got back on stage, because the last time I competed was 2014. I've had years of powerlifting in there where I went from squatting 225 to squatting 430.
Yeah.
And like shit like that.
So you thought to yourself, maybe
So
I
I
should get a
thought to
coach.
myself, I wonder what I would look like if I dieted down and dug a little bit more. So for me, working with Paul was one, I think finding a coach that shares. Now, you don't necessarily have to find someone that shares the same beliefs as you as like a cop-out, but I think it's important to find someone who has like the same mind of view, at least on topics, as you do.
Yeah.
And Paul's known for getting people dialed in for peak week, working with natural athletes and stuff like that. So like the fit made sense. And the big thing for me was I know if I'm going to compete again, with how much work demands of me, that I would have to take all stresses out of competing. So there can't be like, oh, I wonder if I should change my carbs this week. I wonder if I should increase cardio. I wonder if I should front load or back load water for peak week. I know that if I have someone helping me and all that stress is off my plate of figuring it out, that I can just dial it in. So that was the big thing for me.
That was the big thing for Dana, which was like,
the guesswork.
Once again, dude, we always travel crazy up until shows. Like there's so much going on. And I think one of her big problems is, one of the big things for her too is like, she has to take it serious. So like, she can't cheat. She can't rely on drugs on the backside. She can't rely on like, it's very important. And she feels all the pressure of the world on her. So like, she has so many things going on. Plus she's like low-key internet celebrity thing. She's running her own businesses. It's just that thing taken off your plate where it's just like, no, I trust George, and George just tells me what to do. And I just fucking follow directions. And then that she opens up that mental capacity to go somewhere else and do something else.
Yeah. So the only thing that I think one of the takeaways there too is like, first I would say if you're even considering getting a coach, try it and figure some things out on your own, because what happens is people rely on these coaches, so they don't even know the questions to ask.
Yeah.
So like, or they're scared to, or when they're done working with this coach and paying X amount of money for X amount of weeks, that they get completely out of shape and back to worse than before they started because their goal's not there anymore. So like, why am I going to keep paying this coach X amount of dollars? So there is a beauty in figuring it out for yourself. And also, not everyone has to compete.
No, yeah, it's true.
So, like, one of my big things is, like, if you're someone who's never lifted weights before, why do you want to compete? Like, fall in love with like I can
that goes
get
back
it.
to fitness now.
It comes back to what fitness is and what fitness is becoming. But, like, if you fall in love with training, fall in love with, like, as dumb as it is to say, like, the process of it and all of that stuff, like, do shit for the right reasons, and then you don't have to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I lack motivation. Where's my motivation today? It's like, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Like, waking up for me at 5 a.m. or whatever to do cardio and all that's fun. I'm more annoyed the days I don't have to do cardio.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, I'm up at 5 a.m. What the fuck do I do now? I'm like sitting in the sauna for a half hour, like playing Nintendo. So, like, if you're doing it for the right reasons, then you'll find yourself not lacking the motivation as much. Yeah. Granted, maybe like deep in a prep, you're like, oh, I got to dig today, or something's going on here and there. But for, like, generally speaking, when people are like, hey, where do you find motivation for the gym? Ask yourself why you're doing it.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the big problems with fitness, is it feels so good and it's so sexy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you
from
first start, well, from the outside,
yeah.
It feels so good, it's so sexy. I think even when you start doing it, like, it feels really good and it's really sexy. But I think it's one of those things that you can, like, blow your load so fast with it. You know, you can dig into the industry and really get so involved, and, like, you can change your name on Instagram to, like,
Fit Pro,
Rob Bailey Fit Man or whatever. And, like, you can have all these dreams, and then when they don't, like, sort of come all together, I feel like a lot of people get jaded or they just bail.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, you know, same thing I was blessed with. Like, I started lifting. I saw my dad lift. Now, my dad never really lifted with me, but he bought me a bench and some weights, and they were just at the house. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to lift weights because I used to see my dad lift weights. And then when I got to school, I was like, you know, I realized that, like, I just want to be jacked or I just want to be strong because when we do our testing for football, like, I just always wanted to be really good. So once I didn't even understand, like, I want my biceps bigger. Like, the imagery of it never really clicked, but it was I liked doing it. And then I remember seeing numbers go up, and I remember the first time that I benched 225. Yeah. It was like the greatest day ever. I think I was in 10th or 11th grade.
Jeez, for me it was last week.
But I remember benching 225 because I saw other dudes doing it. So I remember thinking to myself, like, fuck, man, I can't wait till I do that. And I don't know. To me, that was, like, the greatest thing ever. And I think that when Dana started lifting, you know, because I think she's, once again, important in this conversation. Yeah. I think when she started lifting, it was just to hang out with me, and she fell in love with the same thing. Like, she didn't start lifting to compete. And I think a lot of people are like, ooh, I'm gonna start lifting so I can become a famous fitness model. Right. Or so I can get bitches, or so that I can compete. Yeah. Right. And I think that when you do those things, you should be lifting weights because you love lifting weights. You should be training because you love training. And she did that for a full year, where she was like, I just love doing this. We have fun every day. It's fun, like, blah, blah, blah. And then competing was, like, a byproduct of being in love with training. Yeah.
And that's why I think it's important to do it for yourself for a little, because then you figure out what you like. Exactly. You figure out, like, oh, just because X pro says that you need to do this split, that doesn't mean you have to do it. You have to figure out what's consistent for you and what you can see yourself doing long term. Because, like, if it's only a training program you can see yourself doing for the next 5 weeks, then, like, what is the benefit of it? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, there's a benefit to learn and everything like that. But I think that, like, even so, all diet aside, because obviously, like, my diet right now is sort of a mess. You know, it's the vegan, but it's, once again, I'm not trying to get shredded. I'm not trying to get bigger. Like, my focus right now is on the training.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, we talked about when you said your story was when Dana decided to get a coach. You asked me, but, like, you just got a coach. Yeah. So, like,
I did just get a coach.
It's not a bodybuilding coach, but you got a coach.
Yeah. So I think my issue was I have just a lot in my head, you know, and I think that, like, in addition to the workload, I have a lot of, like, dreams and stress, and, like, I'm just a mess. Like I just always want to do all these things, and I'm always consumed by it, and I'm not good at sort of handling problems. So like a lot of times there's so many little problems going on that I let them like run me. And what was happening was I've been struggling to find time when I can be a bodybuilder, right? And so it's like a little whirlwind of things. So it's the time, it's keeping my head in the right area to be able to train, and not like be on my phone and then next thing you know, like answering emails and everything like that. And how I used to do that is I used to just lift really fucking heavy, right? So if my head was a mess, I'm like, cool, I'm gonna try to press the 150 dumbbells for as many as I can, or I'm gonna deadlift I'm just gonna do monster singles or whatever. And over the last since I was like 22, so over the last 14 years, that's what I've been doing. And it's like slowly catching up with me. Like if my shoulder rebuilt twice, like everybody knows my back issues, knee issues run in my family. So like slowly but surely, like I've been sort of falling apart. And now that I'm in my like mid 30s, mid 30s, I can't fall back on just like, hey, let me just lift as heavy as I can and be a monster and smash everything like fucking Branch Warren. So I got to a point in time where I was like, what am I supposed to do? So I started doing like more reps and started trying to like focus on like being a bodybuilder, because no bodybuilders I know lift heavy.
Right.
You know, it's all about contraction and things like that. So I was like, all right, let me do that. You know, like the hypertrophy coach stuff of like this unique exercise. I'm keeping my pinkies up and I'm concentrating and I'm doing hold and neck and time under tension and all this. And to me, that's just not interesting.
You feel like you're just going through it?
Yeah, because I've never really wanted to look like a bodybuilder. You know what I mean? To me, bodybuilders look relatively unathletic, and they have a look.
Generally speaking.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Generally speaking. And I've always wanted to be, I always found like the strong man more attractive, because it was like bigger. The dude could like pick up anything, move anything. And he looked like he could like protect everyone around him. Like I always dug that. So as I'm like pulling away from that and I'm moving more towards bodybuilding, I just realized that like, I mean, you know, it's weird to say, but like I have the money, you know, which is a weird thing. I don't want a training partner. It's not what I want. And I realized I was looking my whole life and I was like, you know what? I now at 36 have the money. I could reschedule my day and have the time.
Yeah.
And I could literally hire a coach or a trainer to sort of work with the goals that I want. And I realized that like my goals can't be lifting heavy anymore. So like I'm not going to hire Dan Green to do my programming. You know, like I'm realizing that there's problems that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I'm also realizing that like if you tell me to do HIIT for fucking 10 minutes on the air bike, I'm not going to do it unless there's someone standing there being like,
watching
all right,
you.
30 more seconds. So I just realized that for my life, that was a priority. And I think one of the greatest feelings was like just completely letting that go and knowing that, one, I'm paying for it. Two, I really...
when you say you're paying for it, just to give that some context, that means you're appreciating it and respecting it more?
Well, yeah, financially I'm paying for it. It's not like some guy who's donating his time.
Right, because
like,
then you might not take it as serious.
There's an obligation, yeah. And I think that like me knowing that there's a financial transaction, and then also like me respecting, once again, it's Roster Runner on Instagram, but like me respecting his time and knowing that he doesn't really do one-on-one training sessions. So having that obligation... And the same thing, dude, as much as I'm in complete control of my life, and I literally do whatever the fuck I want. Everyone can sort of vouch for like, Rob doesn't answer to anybody. But at the same point in time, if I trust you and you tell me to execute something, that's what I'll do.
Right.
And that goes back to, once again, we can do a whole nother podcast on high school sports, sports in general, working with a team and knowing that you're part of something bigger and following directions.
Yeah.
Same thing, like I would have done phenomenal in the military, because if I trust what you're telling me to do, I will execute the shit out of that super fast, super vicious, like I'll fucking do it. And I'm at a point in time in my life where I wanted to take some pressure off myself and just follow directions.
Right. So when you went to him and like you started the conversation, you talked about like your goals being different now. Like how'd you present it to him? Like, hey Dan, these are my goals.
So I had to do a box jump, right? So pretty much when I started quote unquote bodybuilding, which is, I think bodybuilding is when I started doing like splitting up my body parts more than upper body, lower body.
Yeah.
Like, and that was around 22. I started training with a bunch of dudes like that. So approaching Dan was more or less saying like, hey man, I tried to do a box jump the other day for a photo shoot and I felt uncomfortable doing it.
Okay.
That was the trigger.
Oh, that was the
photo
the
shoot in the green
okay.
shorts.
Yep.
They wanted me to do a box jump and jump as high as I could. And I remember just feeling like, oh, this feels really odd.
Foreign, yeah.
And knowing that it shouldn't feel like that.
Yeah, yeah.
In addition to that, like my back pain, you know, so to put it in perspective, like I've always had it, and every single day of my life I've been at a 4 on the pain scale. Like a 4 to me is like closing your finger in a car door. But if you were to do that every single minute for your whole day, eventually you'd get used to your finger being stuck in a car door.
Yeah, you've just learned.
And I just got used to my back, dude. And I was like, yeah, I have back pain. So all the time I'd be at a 3 or a 4. And then every once in a while it would go to an 8. And an 8 for me is like
demobilizing.
I'm on the ground. Yeah. I have to like I hold my breath when I breathe and stuff like that. That's an 8. I always saved like a 10 for like the day when I get shot or something like that. I just assumed that would be a 10 or like hit by a car. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I always made a rule with myself that like pain scale, I never go to a 10 ever.
Okay.
What was happening was that 4 was flaring up to an 8 like every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I felt I got to a point in time where I was like, all right, cool. I can't do anything that compresses my spine. So I can't do squats. I can't do deadlift. I can't do calf raises.
You bought a damn inversion table.
I can't do shrugs. I can't do like seated shoulder press. Even a lot of times when I did like laterals or fronts, like I couldn't go over 20 to 25 pounds. So all of a sudden, like all these exercises I've loved for so long have just been like dropping off. And like everyone else that I know that gets older, all of a sudden I started having all these excuses.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, well, yeah, I'd be in better shape, but like when I run a lot, my shins hurt and then it flares up my lower back. So like all of a sudden I stopped running. All of a sudden I stopped doing heavy shrug. Like, and that's what happens, I feel like, long term is people all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I used to be big like you, but then I blew out my shoulder.
My favorite
thing
people say.
and I'm looking at that and I'm like, fuck, man, like, I don't want that to happen to me. So all those little things coming together is where I approached Dan and I was like, hey, man, like, I just want to be an athlete. And he was like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to do like a Spartan race? And I was like, no. Like, I just want to be flexible and I want to be an athlete and I want to feel good. So we just started literally with like baby movements. Like looking back now, the movements were so just simple.
Yeah.
But I remember the first day we started with an ascending descending set. And the high that I got.
What is that? Just explain that.
Okay, so one exercise. So for example, I was doing TRX, it's not TRX pull-ups, but TRX like elevated leg rows. Okay. Right? So a row on TRX bands. Or on TRX straps. And then the other thing I was doing was a box jump.
Okay.
It wasn't a high box at all. It was like a 32-inch box or something like that. Or maybe a 30-inch box. And it was a depth jump up. So I did 10, the set was 10 box jumps and then 1 row.
Oh, and then
And then I went back to the box jumps right away, no rest, and I did 9 and then I did 2.
Okay.
8, 3, and you work your way all the way back up until you're doing 1 box jump and you're doing 10 rows.
Okay.
So it's like
it sounds like a couple minute set.
Yeah. So I mean, I've done ascending descend that take 40 minutes before.
Oh Christ.
But like my one this morning that I did, once again, maybe took 15 minutes.
Okay.
But it's like, dude, you're just cooking, and the motions, they were so easy, but like my brain shut off.
Yeah.
And like I was just getting through the exercises, and then we did a little bit of HIIT work, and like I left, and I was like, I've never had this much clarity because I wasn't thinking about what to do.
No, you were just doing it.
No, I'm just what's the next exercise? Okay, throw this ball against the wall and do a jump. Like cool, done. Boom, boom, boom. Knees up higher. Cool. Get your knees up, Rob.
Yeah.
And like I walked out of there and I was like, I've never felt this much clarity before in my life, and especially for someone like me who's managing 10 businesses, I was like, dude, that fucking clarity is worth $1 million.
So you were hooked right away.
And right away, I was like, I should have done this so long ago.
Yeah. And the cool thing about what you're doing is like it more than like bodybuilding and having abs and all that, it transfers directly to real life situations.
Everything.
Even like you on the snowboard mountain yesterday, I was like, where did Rob get all these?
Well,
like,
I got balance.
from?
I can go off jumps again.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that the other thing for me too, dude, is like bodybuilding. Like, say you're doing like lat pull downs, like it's your last one. You're like, oh yeah, and it's like with a spot, you'll get that last one or whatever. But for me, a lot of times, like he'll be like, all right, next set, and like you get to it, and you can barely get to like the treadmill to do like a dead push run.
Right.
And he's like, 20 seconds. I'll start when you're going full speed. So like you start and like you're going for like 4 seconds and you're like, why the fuck hasn't he started counting yet? And he's like, you're not at full speed yet. You're sandbagging. You hit full speed, he starts counting, and like there's so much of a mental game where it's like, okay, I have 7 more seconds left of going all out.
Yeah.
And then you finish and it's like, okay, cool. Now I need to catch my breath. And you move to the next thing and it literally just kicks the fuck out of you. And they're foreign exercises.
Right.
And for me too, it's like, it's so much of a mental game of like, how do I get through this? And the same thing with an ice bath, which you're sitting in an ice bath, you're like, I'm not going to die. I know I'm not going to die. I can get up at any point in time, but I need to stay in 20 more seconds. And for me, that like mental battle that I do it every single morning now.
Right.
It's amazing. That with like the physicality of like how my movements are, I love it, dude.
Yeah. I've like similar in a sense reasons why I picked up Muay Thai last year.
Yeah.
So I did jiu-jitsu growing up and like always hit the heavy bag and always was a fan of like boxing and MMA forever. But last year in the winter, I just remember feeling like super stiff because I was done powerlifting. So I stopped worrying about my mobility and stretching and foam rolling. And I remember like I would hit golf balls and then like bend down to pick them up and I'd be hurt because I have like bulging discs in my back and like scoliosis and like all jacked up. And I remember just feeling stiff last year and thinking like, I can't even bend down to like pet the dog right now. So similar to like the reason why you started training with Dan was to feel athletic. And that's similar to last year why I started training Muay Thai.
Yeah.
It was because I wanted something to do that would challenge me that I wasn't in control of. So like I took jiu-jitsu and did karate growing up. But that was back in the 90s. I was always a fan of boxing and MMA forever. I remember watching the early UFC days, like with my dad and all that. And I was looking at some schools in the area, and I was like, this will be an interesting thing that's going to challenge me that I'm a beginner going into. And like, I remember the first class I go in, and like you see some of the girls in there throw kicks, and you're like, okay, yeah, I don't care that they're asking me right now, like, oh, do you lift and like stuff like that because I'm jacked. They'll all kick my ass.
Yeah.
But one of the fun things that I like about it is when we're doing like at the end of class or whatever, and we're doing like a burnout, it reminds me of like college ice hockey practice or lacrosse practice where like you have no energy in you, but like people are yelling at you and everyone else is doing it. So you're like, oh God, I guess I do have 5 more suicides left. And like, your body's pulling oxygen from a different area in your lungs.
Yeah.
And like, there's times I leave class and it reminds me of back in the day when like you would get your ass kicked at practice and you'd be like, what the hell am I doing?
There's something about that group setting, right? And I think there's something about like, and that's what I feel so bad when people don't play organized sports.
Yeah.
Or like when people are like more or less individuals and they don't realize that like, no, you're at the back of the pack. And like that feeling of like, I can't be back here.
Right.
I can't be back here. Or just knowing that you need to like where you stand in the group.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that there's right now with social media and with, I don't want to get too much on that topic, but you don't know where you stand because you can like fake it. And when you're in that group and you're all running suicides and like everyone finishes and then you're the last one because you're fucking tired or whatever, it's like there's a feeling there that you can't shake that makes you better.
Yeah. Well, if you're the right person.
Yeah, if you're
it should like drive you and like fire you up. The one thing that always gets me in class, and you're probably really good at it, but I've never done it before because I didn't play football growing up, is the agility ladder.
Oh,
so like we'll go
I'm
through
getting better at that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go through the agility ladder, and I suck.
Really?
And like especially the first, it was funny because like I took 2 months off, and I just started training again in December. And my first class back, we did the agility ladder, and I started to like get it down, like ollie shuffle, karaoke, like all the different moves, especially like if we were going through like switch stance and throwing jabs or combos or whatever. But then like going back to it after not doing it for 2 months, it went away so quick.
Oh, yeah.
Like quicker than anything.
My
I
hip
ever
my hip
experienced.
mobility does that. I do a lot of hip mobility work, and like if I take off for 2 weeks and I travel, when I come back, he's like, "What happened to your hips?" I'm like, "I don't know, man." It's
I haven't been foam rolling every morning.
I don't know. It's not even the foam rolling. It's literally like
Just gone.
A lot of the movements, like my hips need to be open, and they just.
Well, travel, you figure a lot of times, like whether you're on a plane or not, the one big thing that I always have trouble with traveling is just drinking water.
Yeah.
Because you're just all over the place.
I don't drink nearly enough water.
Yeah. But so I think to wrap it up, what are we were talking? What was the topic? Coaches?
So it started out when should you get a coach? And I think we covered it from tons of different angles.
Yeah.
We covered it from you should fall in love with something, you know. But then there's the other argument too. Like if you're truly in love with something, shouldn't you reach out and get all the information possible as fast as you can?
Yeah.
You know
well, I think I'm always biased to like the experience I had.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So like in every sense of any category when it comes to like my childhood, it's like, I don't know, it was my childhood. I'm biased toward it. Like regardless of whether it was all sunshine and rainbows.
Well, how about this thing for a little lesson? If your coach is asking you to either do really weird things.
Yeah, anything uncomfortable.
Well, no, anything uncomfortable or anything diet-wise that you think feels strange. One, ask questions.
Yeah, ask them why.
Ask them why.
Be curious.
And see if they can explain it. I think that's one thing, too, is like, when you ask someone why and they don't really know why, it's like, ooh, I got a bad coach.
Yeah,
and then also,
your research first.
If they're telling you something that it feels crazy, just ask around, too. Yeah. You know, I think that, like, there's a lot of coaches out there like, oh, you need to do this, 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 and this. Like, I don't know, shop it around, because a lot of times, like, it's what you're eating, it's what you're consuming, it's your health, and you shouldn't just blindly follow someone, especially since, like, a lot of times there's no certifications, there's no anything. People are just...
To be a prep coach, no, there's not.
You just need an Instagram following.
And that's kind of, like, scary about it.
Yeah.
And that's what... I think, like, that's why I think if you do have the mental capacity and the time and you're actually interested in it, one of the best things you could do is learn some things on your own. That way you ask the right questions. You develop a love for it in a different light.
Yeah.
And that's one of the cool things that, like, I'm realizing now, even working with Paul, it's like I'll send him, say, physique update, and it's like, hey, here's where my weight is, and then I'll let him know, hey, we're gonna do here's what my weight is, but I feel like I'm on the very end of like the tail end of the week where I'm gonna drop 3 pounds this week. And he'll be like, all right, if that's what you're feeling, let's ride it out for a couple days and see what happens. And this happened last week. 3 more days went by and I dropped 2 pounds. And it was like, cause I'm used to my body. So like he's working with me the first time. So he doesn't have this knowledge of my body yet. But since I do for so many years, it's like you can work as a team, and then asking questions is only going to help build your information base even bigger.
Which is, I guess, what I realize that I'm in the midst of right now.
Is learning yourself.
Is learning, because I've been, I think 4 years now, I've been vegan.
Right.
There was a point in time where I knew exactly how my body worked. Where
you mean like back when you were just eating Chinese food every day?
No. Back in that little intermittent fasting.
Oh, right.
And ovo-pescatarian. Like, dude, I just had vegetables, rice, and fish. And, like, my body, like, as long as I stuck to that and intermittent fasting, like, I was just getting leaner and leaner and leaner. You remember that?
That was like opening public warehouse.
Yeah. I was just, like, coming together tight. And now I'm in such a weird world where, like, I'm still figuring out, like, especially now because I started tracking macros, like, I'm starting to figure out what kinds of foods, what are my cheat meals, what I can eat at restaurants, like, when I travel, what do I eat, and, like...
Are you having fun with it?
I'm having fun with it,
yeah.
So I'm having fun with figuring out, like, I remember when I figured out at a diner, what do I eat? You know, and it's like, when you go to a normal diner that I used to just get, you know, fucking steak and eggs at, like, what do I get now? And... like, I'm like, okay, no, I want breakfast potatoes and throw all your most exciting vegetables in. And I just want a big plate of that.
Yeah, diners are the shit.
And they're like, well, so wait, just potatoes and vegetables? I'm like, yeah, that's what I want, and black coffee. And dude, whenever it comes out, for some reason, diner chefs love making that. and it's gorgeous. And then most people are like, well, where's your protein? And it's like, I don't know, dude, you have a 3-egg omelet. Like you're literally
You have 15 grams.
Yeah, you're consuming 14 grams of protein. Don't criticize me for foregoing 14 grams of protein right now. And like my meal always looks dope. And like figuring that out to me is like awesome. And seeing how it works and when I can have it and when I can't have it. You know, and right now that I'm tracking, it's the same thing. It's like realizing that like my bag of rice when I get home, like, dude, I look fucking awesome at like 9 o'clock because I eat like tofu tempeh and I eat that full bag of rice.
So that's like your big meal for the day.
Yeah, and that's my big meal for the day. And like, dude,
you know how it affects your weight.
My forearms
in the morning.
fill up, and if I do that and I stop it nice and clean, and when I go to sleep, when I wake up in the morning, I'm pretty lean. I feel really good.
Yeah.
So like learning all those little things with my whole new diet, I love it, dude.
Yeah, and
I'm also not in a rush. Like I don't, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
you're not in a rush, and then you're also in loving the training. So you're loving.
I love the training more than the
of
diet.
it.
So to me, right now, it's like
you're in your sweet spot.
Well, even this weekend, right? So like I've low key been dieting for 13 days. And the only reason I know this because I've been taking progress photos. And this weekend, I was so beat up from last week that, dude, I just ate like a fucking monster. Like. I made like vegan spaghetti, and I ate so much vegan spaghetti, and then
what's vegan spaghetti?
Well, it's and these are the products I don't like using. So it's like meatless crumbles.
Okay,
those are all things that like when I consume a lot of the fake meats or anything like that, my body goes to shit.
Is it just because they have like a lot of sodium?
It's because I don't know what's in them.
Okay,
you don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could read, but it's like. I'm so used to things that I eat where it's like, what are you eating? I'm like, rice,
it's one
asparagus, and tofu, or tempeh, or black beans and hot sauce, or like whatever it is. And this is like random vegan meat product.
Yeah.
So I banged on that. I went out to eat. We got those.
So are you lean enough where your body responded positively or negatively?
No, negatively. But but I had to eat like that this weekend because my top priority this weekend was recovering
from your training.
From my training because I was starting to get shin splints from all the jumping. My hamstrings were rocked. My quads were rocked. Like my shoulders were just all week. I just got beat up so bad where I was like, no, I'm going to eat like a monster this weekend because I need to be ready for Monday. So it was really cool to like know that I could step it up, not completely fall apart, but also not feel really guilty because when I stepped into training this morning, I was like, no, I took all the nutrients I needed and my body recovered. And I used to do that with Chinese buffet.
Yeah. Oh God. I hate the
right?
buffet.
So I don't know. And that's the thing right now is like, yeah, I have an understanding and I'm maintaining and I'm slowly getting better. But like right now I'm in love with the training, dude. And I've been in love with it for 6 months.
Yeah. Well, training in general, you've been in love with your whole life.
My whole life, yeah.
That's why. And like the training now is just what you're into, and it's keeping you excited and keeping you coming back and consistent. And like I've known you for over 6 years now, and this is like the most consistent I've ever seen you with training. Yeah,
5 days a week, guaranteed. 5 days a week, and then on the weekends, I'll run my 5K, and then I'll do. I might do some bodybuilding movements,
right?
But like I'm at the point in time now where I don't even really do all my bodybuilding movements because I'm saving myself
your energy
for
your muscles.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I think that's pretty dope. It's exciting to watch, especially like when you're sitting there and you're like, oh God, I forgot to log my last meal on MyFitnessPal. It's just like hilarious to
I know.
Me that like
well,
I called
a timeout in the meeting today. I was like, ooh, I just had another protein shake and I had I had the tempeh rice and broccoli, and I was like, I got to figure out how much rice I had. And you were like, wait, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to.
MyFitnessPal for me is like it's like a video game. I like log all my food the night before, and then make sure it all like equals out, and then I know the next day. And that I think that's how I've always done it. Even back when like 2012 when I first downloaded MyFitnessPal, I always logged my food the night before
like OG,
as like
bro.
a little game.
You should get like a couple extra stars next to your name.
I've been in this game for a minute. I pay for the premium version because I ain't pussing out on that. I want to be able to adjust everything to the way I like it. You know what I'm saying?
Pussing out.
Yeah. Did we cover the topic?
We covered a lot. I think we covered plenty.
Okay.
I don't know how these work.
I think that we have to look at these as they just work. However, because I listen to other people talk and they don't make sense.
Why are you getting
anything.
so? You're getting very like I
don't know
right now. And I know you guys can't see him, but he threw this like a bent wrist hand up.
Well, I didn't want to hit the microphone.
I know, but you threw up your bent wrist hand, and you were weaving your head back and forth.
Yeah, I was like,
you got very like I'm fighting with a Spanish girl.
Thank God we don't do videos on this stuff because
we
we'd
could.
be doomed.
All right, well, let's just sign out. We got some shit to do. Signing out, Rob Bailey. We still don't have. I guess I'll figure out the name.
I don't have a sign out yet. You can't put me on the spot like this.
All right. Thank you, Austin, for being on the show today.
Yes, I'll be back whenever you want me to be back. It was a great blast time.
See you guys
Later.